The Razr 2025 lineup is now official. Motorola has just taken the wraps off of all three Razrs that will be available this year. It's a three-tiered approach this time where we have a Razr Plus, and a Razr Ultra. Now we've had a Razr Ultra worldwide before, but in the US it was known as the Plus. So now we have both in all markets that the Razr will be available in. So the Plus and the Ultra both have the Snapdragon 8 Elite. The Ultra will have 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage, while the Plus is a bit of a step down with 12 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage. It still has a pretty small battery. I'm not really sure why. It's still only about 4,000 milliamp hour, while the Razr Ultra has a 4,700 milliamp hour, which is the same as the regular Razr, which is going to be about half the price as the Ultra. It's a really interesting thing, to be honest. But last year with the Plus, there really wasn't an issue with the battery life, so I don't think the 4,000 milliamp hour is something to get upset over. Now, these specs really do put the Galaxy Z Flip 6 to shame, because Samsung is offering 12 gigabytes of RAM with 128 gigabytes of storage for $10.99. That's less than what the Razr Plus has, which is $9.99. Just something to think about. Of course, you can't talk about new smartphones without talking about AI, and in Motorola's case, that's Moto AI. Now, they're doing a lot of partnerships with AI, which we had already heard about the Perplexity deal, through Perplexity actually. They're also supposed to be working on a deal with Samsung. We don't know if that's going to actually happen because they have such a tight relationship with Google right now. But when it comes to Motorola, they're working with Perplexity, Meta, Google, and Microsoft Copilot. So there's all kinds of stuff on this device, probably more AI than you'd know what to do with. But I will say it's done in a thoughtful, intuitive manner. So instead of being able to choose your assistant of choice, whether that's Gemini, Perplexity, whatever you want to use on your Razr, what Motorola is doing is they're going to push you to the AI tool that is going to get your task done the best way. So if you're wondering about, what's the latest news, maybe trying to figure out about what's going on with the Trump tariffs, Perplexity will be the better option. But if you're trying to figure out something with Gemini, maybe do some deep research, you might want to use Gemini, although Perplexity can also do that. Now, the Microsoft Copilot features are not here yet. Those are supposedly coming later on. And of course, Motorola talked about how Microsoft Copilot will work really well with Lenovo's Copilot Plus PCs, which is not a big surprise because Motorola is owned by Lenovo, but there we go. Now, there's a couple of features that Moto AI has that are really impressive to me because they're actually useful. It's stuff I'd probably use maybe daily. One of those is Catch Me Up. So, you wake up in the morning, you've got all these messages from every app under the sun. You got messages from WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Signal, though hopefully it's not any war plans. And with Catch Me Up, it'll pretty much summarize all of these for you. Now, Apple does this with Apple Intelligence already, but Motorola is doing this a bit differently, where it'll allow you to reply to each message in line without having to jump into WhatsApp and Signal and Facebook Messenger and whatever other ones that you might be using, which makes it a lot easier to catch up on messages when you wake up in the morning or after a meeting or when you get off of a plane. The other feature that I really like is called Pay Attention. Now, this is very easy to get to. There's a new AI button on the Razr Ultra. Just press that, and then you can tap on Pay Attention on the screen, and it'll start recording. Now, this is an audio recording, so it's like Google Recorder, but kind of on steroids. So this is really great to have if you're in a meeting, while you're obviously going to be taking notes, you might miss something. We've all been there. But with Pay Attention, it'll have all of that transcribed for you afterwards, so you can go back and see what did you actually miss. Now, all three Razr models will get Android 15 and 3 years of updates. I wish it was longer, but 3 years I still think is plenty for a foldable, because after 3 years, that folding display is probably not going to be in great shape. Though I will say, on the Ultra, Motorola's pretty much gotten rid of the crease. It's right on the same level as the Oppo Find N5, where it's there, but you really have to look for it to find it. All three Razrs come in a ton of different fantastic and vibrant colors, as well as different materials. The Razr Ultra, for example, comes in leather, Alcantara, and a wood finish, and each one really looks great. Now, I am having trouble with deciding on which color that I want for my Razr Ultra. I'm really leaning toward that Pantone Real Red, which is that red leather. I don't think it's real leather, but it does feel very close to leather. The frame is also red, so it just looks fantastic. But then we also have that Pantone Mountain Trail, which is that wood-backed one, which it's not actually wood, it's FSC material according to Motorola. The only complaint I have with that one is that it doesn't look like it melts into the frame like the other ones have. The Alcantara does kind of melt into the frame, but you have stitching around the Alcantara part into the rest of the material that's on the back. Now you'll be able to start pre-ordering the Razr, Razr Plus, Razr Ultra all on May 7th. It'll be available from Amazon, Best Buy, and Motorola's website. In Canada, it'll be available from Motorola only for pre-orders. And then the Plus and Ultra will be available at AT&T and T-Mobile on May 15th, while the Razr will be available on May 15th as well from pretty much every carrier you can think of. But in Canada, for some reason, these are pushed back to June 3rd, and the Plus isn't coming to Canada, it looks like. Now, the Razr will cost $699, Razr Plus $999, and Razr Ultra $1299. We don't yet have any details on trade-ins, but Motorola is probably going to be very aggressive with trade-ins, trying to get you to get as many people to trade up, especially from like a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 5, 6, whatever. Because Motorola really wants to keep up that market share they have on the flip phones. Right now, we're looking at 70+% of the flip phone market, which is not a huge surprise because there's not really that much competition right now. You know, we're looking at Samsung and Huawei. A lot of the other makers have stopped with the flip phones. Motorola also said that about 25% of Razr buyers come from iOS, which is pretty eye-opening. I didn't expect a lot of iPhone users to switch over to a flip phone, but it seems that's what a lot of iPhone users want when they do make the jump over to Android. But that's the Razr 2025. All three models look fantastic and will probably beat out the Galaxy Z Flip 7 when that comes in July.